So Gen Z conservatives are in full revolt. I'm living for it.
Yep. You're doing great work. I know some of the people that are involved in this as well.
Give them my personal thanks.
I will. They'll be watching, trust me.
We'll start off with something which I imagine many of them are familiar with, which is on the website, the Premium Book Club called it with me, about Edmund Burke, Reflections on the Revolution in France, which were not pretty, which is just, the French are revolting, becoming socialist. Here's everything that's going to happen as a result. And then everything that he predicted happened. Because leftism is predictable as a clock. It's just the amount of time until everyone ends up dying. And then they say it wasn't enough people that died, not real socialism. Anyway, let's move to the next one here, because we have the news, of course, which is that, well, we got a new Prime Minister.
Yep.
We've saved the Conservatives.
Yes, he has been duly appointed.
We've not changed any of the policies. We're not fixing any of the problems. But new boss.
No.
So vote Conservative. Not very inspiring.
No.
You can see it in the polls as well. Just not really anything's happened. Like there was a jump immediately because it wasn't Liz Truss anymore, and then nothing because we've not solved any of the problems. You're not fixed the economy problems. You've not deregulated the place. You've not closed the borders. You've not even attempted to stop the illegal immigrants. Never mind the legal ones. You've done nothing. And in which case, well, yeah, not going to poll well.
Well, the polling as well, the hemorrhaging is not indicative of necessarily loads of swings to Labour, even though there are on the normie checked-out red wall people. It's the fact that if you look at constituencies like Bexley, my one, the Conservatives diminished their lead, Labour increased their lead, but only proportionate to the fact that Conservatives lost voters. And Reform gained some, which was Richard Tice, but they didn't gain that many. Instead, Tories just stayed at home. They just don't care. Don't want to vote anymore.
Yeah,
they feel
there's
disenfranchised.
With, Matthew Goodwin's research, the University of Kent. I think it's like 4 out of 10 of the people who voted for Boris Johnson's Conservative Party just aren't voting anymore.
Yeah.
Just 40% of your electorate just disappeared overnight.
Yeah, I'm there.
So that's why the Reds are so high. But it could be the amazing ideas that the Reds also have. If we have the Labour Party, they've got fantastic ideas, such as climate reparations.
So you joke, but I covered this on Tuesday. This is being implemented by the Conservatives.
Yeah, if you go to the next one here, you can just see the Daily Mail article. Just Ed Miliband suggests climate reparations to Pakistan.
And he denied that the Chinese would be paid for this, but they absolutely will because they're part of the group that's lobbying for it.
Yeah, but it's also just on the face of it, like, what do you mean reparations? We've done nothing wrong, go to hell.
Yeah, but the obvious thing of this, as we always talk about, is the share of British Pakistani immigrants that vote for the Labour Party. This is just pandering to those lot.
Well, it's pandering to the group of Pakistanis who get money out of it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's actually, people praise it as just like, oh, it's the Pakistani community who do that vote. Maybe, but frankly, it just, for me, comes down to the elite Pakistanis who will be making money off of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because foreign aid is just corruption.
Yeah, of course it is.
In almost every circumstance, it just turns out to be corruption every goddamn
Especially
time.
in an incredibly corrupt country like Pakistan.
Yeah. And, of course, well, they're getting their ideas from amazing people, such as the following retard, who we're going to suffer through, to say the least.
I can't believe you've made me rewatch this, Callum.
Yeah, for people who don't know, some of our motorways were shut down by some local retards.
They still are every single day. It happened today again.
I gotta keep using that word because it just listen to them. It's unbearable. We'll play the clip and have a listen, shall we? About why she's there.
Hello, my name is Louise. I'm 24 years old, and I'm here.
Leave Brittley alone!
Because I don't have a future. And you might hate me for doing this,
Yes,
and
we
you're
do.
entitled to hate me.
Yes, we are.
But I wish you would direct all that anger and hatred at our government.
I already do, love.
They are betraying young people like me. I wouldn't have to be there if they did their lawful duty to their own citizens. And this is an act of self-defense, and we need you to join us in order for this to work, in order for our murderous government to take action and listen. How many more people in Pakistan, in Nigeria have to die before they listen, even in the UK?
I mean, the obvious crocodile tears aside.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't get over how bad the acting was.
Oh,
there.
yeah. But she's been coached. Have you seen the footage in Unheard where they do little ideological camps where they all hold hands and chant their mantras over and over? They have actual struggle sessions to coach their activists.
Yeah, it's just this has to be the best one yet.
Yeah.
It's just because of that noise that came out of her. it's just funny to me. But also, she says there are how many more people in Pakistan have to die before we do whatever the hell she wants, which is some kind of eco-dictatorship.
Yeah.
A few more, I suppose. I don't think it's getting any close to the number that it needs to be. But we'll move to the for an eco-dictatorship. And it's just like, yeah, not going to do what you said.
Yeah, they literally want to appoint climate committees that supersede all government legislation, so they can veto bills and reorient the entire country around net zero policy, and that is just a dictatorship of the proletariat of climate as the excuse.
With reparations being paid to a country that has nukes because they're poor and stuff.
Yeah.
Trust me.
From no fault of their own, I'm sure.
Yeah, anyway, but then we go to the Conservatives, as you mentioned, who decided that, well, that's cringe, but what if we do it?
Yep.
This is an amazing policy. It was like, wow, we're down in the polls and Labour are up. What if we just do a Labour thing? It's like, you haven't looked at the dictates in the slightest.
Yeah.
The research is there. Matthew Goodwin has done the good work for you. He's like, by the way, all the people who vote for you have left politics because you've not done anything conservative. And they go, oh, that's interesting. What if we did climate reparations?
Well, I hope the Conservative Friends of India, who were performing vocal fellatio on Rishi Sunak as soon as he was appointed, will turn on him for this, because they're not fans of Pakistan either, funnily enough.
No, but the solution will probably be that you need to give us an equal amount in India, or it's Hindu phobia, which, funny strategy, and, I got respect for it, in a way. But at the same time, you obviously know we shouldn't be giving money to any of this, so there's just obvious corruption again. But the details in here, Rishi Sunak has backed giving aid. It's not reparations, it's aid. Big difference.
Yeah.
Don't know what the difference is, but it's there. To poor countries affected by climate change, they have nukes. Amid calls for the UK to pay reparations to nations suffering due to floods and droughts. So get rid of the nukes. I cannot advocate more for Pakistan should not have nukes. I trust in the North Koreans with their nukes more than I trust the Pakistanis.
Bear in mind, the Telegraph has already reported, I believe it's in the last 8 years, that China has produced more CO2 emissions than Britain since the start of the Industrial Revolution.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Number 10 said that Britain is already helping countries across the world deal with the impact of climate change. They were literally killing our own economy in worship of the sun god already. The reason I bring this up all the time in that phraseology is because that we make up, I had to look it up, it's gone down again. We're now at 2.3% of the world's economy. We make up less than 1% of the world's emissions. Yeah. It's like, dude, we're doing our work.
Well, China,
we're doing our bit.
Again, last year, or the reopening and exceeding of capacity of 252 coal-fired power plants, and the projections are that will increase single-handedly global emissions by 16% by 2030. So if we're on track to eliminate them by 1% in 2050, China is going to undo our work 16-fold in half the time.
But it's just the point of, like, even if you want to argue, okay, I don't care about the actual global state, but instead this myopic, well, England produces emissions, I see. Like, well, as a share, there's nothing. Like, we've done our bit, in which case, bugger off. Sunak attending COP27, Climate Change Summit in Egypt, where he announced the UK is providing £65 million for nature, people and climate investment funds to support forest communities.
So, wood elves.
Yeah, it's more than 65 million for the wood elves.
Yeah.
It's a bit more than that. Way more.
Well, you're putting our taxes up, you utter scumbag.
Get the next link here. This is the full list on the government's website.
Yep.
But our friends at Unity News Network actually did a great summation of what's being dished out, which, again, nobody voted for, but none of that matters. Get the next link here. We can see Unity News Network detailing it. 11.6 billion on climate finance, 1.5 billion for Pakistan and Somalia. So there you are. So the Pakistanis with the nukes are getting their share of 1.5 billion.
We've got half their bleeding population here.
The money that's going to Somalia, Somalia does need a state at some point, but
well, it's paying to transition all the pirates off of diesel, I'm sure.
Go back to the age of sail yachts.
Look at me, I am renewable now.
No, I think we'll turn up West Country accents trying to teach them. This is how our pirates do it, lads. Yar! Get in the diggy. Boy. But I just after looking at Afghanistan, there is no way that money's going anywhere. But corruption, don't believe it for a minute. We then have 65 million for the wood elves in Kenya and Egypt. Don't know how many wood elves there are in Egypt, but funny thing, Egypt can't feed its own population.
Yeah.
We're actually relying on Russian food. And then we're relying on Chinese food, and now the Chinese aren't exporting their rice.
It's almost like you should have had your own agricultural system.
It's going to be a good winter and spring for them.
Yeah.
Good luck, lads. 150 million for as if the climate is the number one concern.
They're going to buy the monkeys with lasers.
Literally can't buy food,
Congo.
but at least the trees are there. 150 million for the Congo. Oh, don't be silly.
Yeah.
And the Amazon, which don't be silly. Literally, it doesn't matter what party's in charge of Brazil. That thing's going. 65 million for clean energy innovation. So.
Again, that's going to cost $3 trillion to make the UK wholly renewable, which they've both signed on to.
It's for innovation, so it could be for research. So, you know what? Steelman, I will give him a pass on that one in the sense of, like, that might do something, but you're stealing my money, not your own.
Yeah.
So I don't care. Still stealing my cash.
Will it finally make any of them work properly after the decades and decades of subsidies, which, to the point, has got them where they only make up 3% of global energy production?
but also $3 billion for Nairobi's railway, city, and hydropower project. So that's 1.8% of our entire national spending. He's just given up. Wasn't in the manifesto. Didn't ask anyone.
No.
Didn't even brief anyone. Just went, yeah, I'll agree to that. Why? I'm in a room and they've asked me to. Okay, you're weak. Yeah. If I can call you into a conference room and just get you to give me money because I'm annoying you, then come on round, I guess.
He is an evil
Anyway.
globalist, so I shouldn't be shocked by this.
Well, the only complaint is that Labour doesn't, they go too far, whereas our climate reparations are good. If you go to the next link there, you can see him talking about how he doesn't want to give out trillions of pounds of reparations, only billions. Cool, thanks. Neat. Anyway, this is him in Egypt, so just a globalist shill.
Yep.
Just rename the thing. But this brings us to the Generation Z revolt, because this is what you're being offered at the highest level. What's happening at the local level when the MPs for such representations come down and speak to the plebs? Well, we have Steve Baker, for example, who went and spoke to the plebs recently. Steve Baker not being very well liked in the Conservative movement for saying
No.
he's a leftist.
I would like to clarify that he spoke to us at Conservative Party conference and thanked us for being a lockdown skeptic outlet, and he's retweeted my clips before. And then he came out and said this, so I formally denounce any positive word I ever said about Steve Baker. You're a traitor.
I just don't understand the wording. Maybe he's like going through a divorce or something. I almost don't want to be mean.
From his
because-
brain cells, yes.
Well, I just don't, beforehand he seemed fine, and then this stuff has happened and it's so weird.
Well,
So-
he does have a World Economic Forum portfolio that he's never answered for.
Yeah, but for people who don't know what I'm talking about, he came out and said that he was a member of the free market left.
Yeah.
Doesn't literally mean anything, so whatever. If we go to the next one as well, we have some video he retweeted in which someone talks about the fact that
Mark
conservatism
Harper.
is
He's
about...
the, sorry to interrupt, but he was the chair of the COVID backbench recovery group, and then went and supported Rishi Sunak, and people went, well, but you oppose lockdowns and furlough. Why are you doing this? And he was like, oh, we've got to come together. Right, so you're trying to save your own skin.
But even if he's being optimistic, it's like, well, good job.
He was a former immigration minister as well, and he got the sack, I believe, because his cleaning lady in his parliamentary office was an illegal immigrant. It's quite funny, isn't it?
Right, no corruption here. Anyway, but he decides to make in this video an argument that we should be sending all the kids to the universities to be indoctrinated.
Oh, thank you, Blair.
And Steve Baker retweeted that as well. And it's just like, you're literally Blairite neoliberals.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Is that what you're conserving? Stop it. Get some help. Like, go to lotuses.com and look at the book club. We mentioned at the front. What would Burke say of this? Anyway, we also have Steve Baker, hopefully also just saying he's a leftist as well, being referred to by Unheard. When Steve Baker is the most left-wing person at your conference, you have a problem. Yes, there's a leftist here. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, this was a right-wing conference they're talking about here, and they're like, why is there a left-winger here? I was like, yeah, that's a good point. We'll go to the details, because this was Darren Grimes' Reason conference.
Well,
So-
no, technically, Jess Gill organised the entire thing because Darren was too busy on his GB News show, which has now been cancelled.
Okay. I don't know the details, but I saw Darren was there and Jess.
That's all right.
And-
She's done a very good job with this, so I just wanted to give her credit.
And British conservatism, they write, as a political force and philosophical creed is dying. Yeah. Brexit has failed. The Tories face destruction at the next general election. Demographically, conservatism faces extinction in the decades ahead. Yeah, it's looking pretty grim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who was in power that did this?
Yeah.
No clue.
Someone-
Probably Green Party, I don't know.
When I was on France 24 debating about Rishi Sunak, someone raised the point that actually Brexit is a flashpoint issue for the Conservatives, but it's because they misunderstood the kind of Brexit the British people wanted. Because we wanted national sovereignty, and they wanted global Britain, and that's why Rishi Sunak was Brexiteer. They were like, yeah, controls on immigration, as in more from the rest of the world.
Well, the big thing we found with the Brexit failure there that he's referring to is the fact that we're still in, what is it, the EHRC? So Nigel Farage argued we have to get out of that if you actually want to control your borders.
Yes.
Because of the illegals.
Yeah, but then Rishi Sunak wants to immediately sign up to the UN's definition of human rights, which is someone who is unable or unwilling to return to their country. So it's like AOC's definition for the Green New Deal. So,
Sure, but the legal complaint is not about just definitions, but the fact that we're still in the EHRC.
yeah, I agree.
No reason to be there.
No.
Any Home Secretary who wrangles with the issue is like, well, we need to leave that.
Yeah.
And the rest of the cabinet are like, yeah, but that's racist.
But then the problem with Conservatives is they're going to land us in another definition. I'm just so like the Conservatives can't be the solution.
If you actually wanted to solve the problem, then yes, that is part of the failure. You didn't actually get your sovereignty back because you still remained within the EHRC. Grimes has managed to gather around 100 young Conservatives, about 19% of 18 to 24-year-olds, they write, voted Tory at the last election, to network and to listen to Nigel Farage, Steve Baker and Daniel Hannan. The outlines of a new conservatism, despairing and angry,
Yep.
can be glimpsed here. I was like, okay, good work. The people getting together to figure out how we solve the crap.
I know some of the attendees to this and some of the people that will ask the questions that are mentioned in here. And I was talking to them offline, and we all just said we have utter unmitigated contempt for the things that they have done to us as a country. You've impoverished us. You've removed our ability for social mobility. And so we're not going to be polite to you. We're just going to rip you a new one whenever we see you.
Well, it's understandable that, Nigel Farage will be popular from that because, well, he's the guy who's proposing how to solve that, not part of the movement that has done it. And you also have Daniel Hannan, who was in, the EU Parliament?
Yes,
so he wasn't directly.
But he's become a boilerplate libertarian. And I say this as someone, I believe he was on our director's board for the charity non-profit we were running, and he is very sensible in innovation. He brought the proof that the Wuhan lab leaked COVID to the Parliamentary Scientific Committee, but he is a boilerplate Thatcherite, and that's not what people want now.
Sure, I didn't want to go into his whole history, but
No,
it's just he's once removed, and you got Steve Baker, who's an MP in the government that's caused the problems, and it's okay. So one person's not going to be popular. They are not yet a movement like the National Conservatives or the New Right in America, though through their frank apocalypse, stridency, and a satirized sense of embattlement, they are heavily influenced by both. I was like, who can blame them?
We've been talking to them because literally some of them went to CPAC out in Hungary and spoke to people on the New Right, and they were like, right.
But it's
So
not
you're
about
doing something.
influence from America. They're like, this person's trying to phrase it in that
Yeah,
sense. It's
as
like,
if we don't have our own minds and our own discontents.
Well, it's an influence and an interaction with the state of affairs that is Britain,
Yes.
and coming out of it with the solution that's like, right, well, the old solutions didn't work, so let's try something new. They remain in organisation and physical appearance embryotic. They are trad aesthetics with high Tory Anglicans, young fogies and BNP haircuts, Turning Point UK influencers, Scrutonians and boys who just love Peter Hitchens. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. Like Hitchens, the young men in this room think that Britain has been abolished. Well, it's a very convincing argument, isn't it? And that the Conservative Party is not conservative at all.
Yep.
Ambient British culture, whether it is RuPaul's Drag Race or footballers taking the knee, bristles with personalities and causes that unsettle them. Like, because it's not British or rightist, antithetical. They see wokeness as a virus.
Factual.
They're not left-wingers. I don't know how to... Why are you confused by this, Mr. Writer? Infecting every aspect of British culture. Well, they're not wrong, are they?
No.
And every one of those counts. It's like, well, that's the reality. And you being confused about why do they not like left-wingism? Like, I don't know either. But Farage is in trouble with all the right people. His enemies, listed at length, the Today programme, the ESG, corporation tax, Jeremy Hunt, Tory Wets, Westminster generally, and the House of Lords specifically, are their enemies too. I don't think the House of Lords actually on a large front this.
Packed full of Lib Dems.
No, I'm talking about some of the lords you can find who are very based.
Yes, some very few of them. They're severely outnumbered. Claire Fox is in a minority of voices.
My point isn't that the House of Lords is based. I'm saying that there are lords in there who are incredibly based, and the reason they got in there is either some of them are hereditary, which is still really funny. I just love it, and the ones who are appointed under Thatcher, like some of them are just awesome. Lord Pearson, chat. Salutes in the chat. Anyway, but he's in trouble with all the right people. He describes listening to Radio 4 as agony. This is conservatism as hay fever. Irritants, lefty spores are everywhere, and they will make you ill, angry, and prickly.
Well, yeah, it's called reactionary slightly for a reason, because we're just sort of floating along, living our life peacefully on our own presuppositions, and then suddenly a trans communist wants to come and diddle my child. And I'm kind of allergic to that, thank you very much.
I hate that term, though. I can't stand the term reactionary. Carl's right. It's like, with or without the left in the room, you are still what you are, and what you are is a traditionalist.
Yeah, we act on first principles, yes.
But it's got nothing to do with whether you're reacting to the left. The left can all be dead, and you'd still be what you are.
Sure, but we are driven into a state of self-defense at the moment, because even if you aren't interested in politics, politics is an interest in you.
Sure, but that term I hate the term. It's just a point about terms, which is that you end up cornering yourself into a room, which the question often gets asked of such people, which is, well, what do you do without the left? And usually they don't have an answer, and it's like, well, it's because you haven't thought about
there should be an affirmative vision, but we are also backed against a wall at the moment.
Sure, it is the fact that leftism is everywhere.
Yes.
So the person describing it as hay fever, there are spores everywhere. It's like, again, absolutely correct. Rightists don't like leftism. What's complicated about this? I don't understand. Like, weird leftists, like, they wouldn't like the evangelicals being in all the schools, and I'd happen to agree with them on that. Probably a bad idea. But the thing is, the rightists don't like gender ideologues being in all the schools as well. But you understand one, but you don't understand the other. Sorry, but the person writing this just seems confused to me deeply. Do they want more Unreconstructed libertarianism? I doubt it. They're not like Farage, Thatcher's children. They are his children. They, like Farage, positions on British identity and borders, not markets. They hoot their affection of Farage, not for what he says about free trade, but for the way he says it, which is... I don't really know what the description is. Like, yeah, people don't want to sell out their own country.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean people don't want deregulation and the state to leave them alone to run their business, so... I find that
They
confusing.
want a reorientation of our economic policy towards British prosperity, not global prosperity.
Yeah, but he's phrasing it like they want regulation of private businesses on the way that we have now. It's just like, nobody wants that.
No.
Pain in the ass. Anyway, when an actual MP arrives, Steve Baker, the contrast with Farage is sharply apparent. A third of the audience goes outside to vape.
Well done, Will. You know who you are.
His role during the Brexit years made Baker a liberal hate figure, recently called a C-word by Channel 4 Christian
Jeremy Hunt.
Gutha Murthy, where replied, the dude is an asshole. He actually did an interview with a leftist talking about how Charlie Hebdo deserved to be shot. And he's listening to her chat away at this, and he's like, tell me more.
Right.
It's just like, yeah, you're scum. But in this room, he is not right-wing enough.
Yeah, because he self-describes himself as a man of the left.
I think it would be self-descriptive, but he is accused of promoting, to loud and prolonged applause, Marxist identitarian politics, though school reading programs in his constituency.
Well done, Elizabeth, for asking him that question.
I don't know why you're applauding that, Baker says forlornly. Just like, yeah, it's because you're a commie.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be why. I can imagine him just being really upset. It's like, why are you saying I'm promoting Marxist leftism? It's like, because you are. It's not a difficult concept. Baker told the group at the conference this year that footballers taking the knee isn't a neo-Marxist act, it's a statement of solidarity.
So that conference event was hosted by a friend of mine named Albie, who runs Conservatives Against Racism for Equality. And
for equality, I'm a conservative.
yeah, Conservatives Against White People for Communism. I've told him this multiple times. And he actually came to my birthday, and the day beforehand, he tweeted out about saying that demographics are changing in the UK. This was well ahead of the census, and said that we've got an increasing Muslim population. And so what we have to do is, rather than demonising them and being against Islam, we have to appeal to their sense of fairness and family and make them a new voting bloc. And I had to sit Albie down and go, but Albie, you're a gay man. They want to throw you off a building. Like, you do realise that in trying to be too conciliatory, you have become amoral to the point of it being suicide. And he has Steve Baker's air. Lovely guy, but desperately naive.
I wish him luck on converting the Taliban.
Yeah.
Good try. But the thing is, the quote there, the taking the knee is not a neo-Marxist act, it's a statement of solidarity. Well, look at the England team here. This is not a Nazi act. It is a statement of international solidarity and peace, Mr. Baker.
Live stream of Barry from Qatar being paid to be out there.
Gary Neville commentating. It was a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's no, shut up, Steve. Like, this is a Nazi act. It was horrible they did it. And everyone rightly condemned it at the time as well. And you should be, in the time we're living, condemning Marxism. The hell's wrong with you? Anyway, back to the article. Baker says, we have to think about our moral centres. Some of the things I've heard today are dangerous. It doesn't work. The young conservatives are not interested in being nice. They write.
Yeah, because you're trying to trans the kids. There is no common ground to have when you are trying to mutilate children. I am not going to sit on the fence and try and calm down the conversation. I'm not going to do as trigonometry tells me to do. I hate you.
Like, I'm not going to take his description of because I don't know if he's talking about transing stuff, but we'll take what he said there about taking the knee. So saying that taking the knee is a Marxist act is a dangerous thing to talk about. And it's like, no, it's reality.
It's factual.
You can sit there and cry about it. When I find him after his speech, Baker is close to despair. Youth politics, whether on the right or the left, is wreathed with gloom. He understands that young people in Britain have the rawest deal. Yeah, so why not help them?
Who's caused it, you imbecile?
No, but this is the thing. Like, again, like, I try and take some sympathy with Steve, and I maybe it's in the wrong place.
Yeah, I don't
but
know.
I just don't know how someone could fall so flawed. Seems to recognise that something is wrong, and I'm just hoping there's some spark in there that maybe he will click and get it. Because the thing is, like, if I take his word for it, like, this author hung around with Steve and has a relationship with him apparently, and there's the thing: if you honestly sit around after that conference, and you're like, Jesus Christ, these people are going rough, and they're not looking to me for the future. Think about that.
Yeah.
Why not close the borders, for example,
Yeah.
to ensure that they can own a house and get married, and therefore be invested in the system itself? Look at the next link here. These results came out over the midterms, and a lot of people were shocked by them. Well, not at the first on the left. It's the marital status for people and how they voted. So married men and married women vote Republican. Whereas if you go to the unmarried, it was unmarried men were basically marginal, and unmarried women voted overwhelmingly with the Dems. And there's the argument in the United States that's going on, which is about abortion. And sure, abortion will be a huge factor in those results. But the bigger point for me, and why this trend is more stark, in my view, is it's those invested in the system who actually want to, make something worth defending and then defend it. Whereas if you give them nothing, like, if there's no ability to actually settle down for the youth today because they can't even get a home, what do they care?
Yeah.
The whole system could collapse. Literally, the most common thing you hear from young people is, I can't wait for the economy to collapse so I can buy a house.
I feel like I've been involuntarily politicized, you know? Like, I feel like we're good at this job, but do you sometimes just feel like, I kind of just want to check out and have a family? And we are, again, being backed up against the wall. It's because you have failed on your duty as an MP to make a country worth living in, when we've screamed our concerns at you endlessly, that we're now in this fight criticising you. It's just like, leave me alone.
But that's my thing, is like, if he sincerely thinks, okay, the youth have got a really raw deal and they're telling me to close the borders, it's like, well, yes,
Listen.
might be a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to give them a good deal, that's part of the problem, is you can't buy homes in this country because we literally just build them for foreigners.
Yeah.
Back to the article. Baker broods about the room's radical aggression on migration. There are calls for the borders to be shut down completely from the crowd.
Please.
Again, such a radical proposal, which is like, how about you stop flooding the country with foreigners?
Yeah.
Like, just look at the numbers, man. Literally, a few years ago, you ran on a campaign, your whole party, since 2010, have issued a statement that they wanted a cap of tens of thousands net coming into the country. You failed at every single barrier. Well, in which case, you can make it up. You can pay the reparations tax in the terms of migrations here. So the net, since you came in power to whenever you get out of power, is tens of thousands by closing them now.
Did you know that Nicola Sturgeon's doing this reparations thing for climate, and you can claim them on the grounds of cultural destruction? So I think I'm going to claim that.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Here. Yeah, thank you very much.
Gives the money. And you'd also just look at Swindon, for example. If we go to the next link here. What happened in the 1990s, Steve?
Yeah.
If only we knew. If only we knew who did this to us. And if only we knew who was in power and allowed it to go on since 2010.
Yep.
This is the thing. I'm trying to get through to him because people like him. Because I can see why some boomers who own their homes and want a quiet life don't understand why the youth are so mad and, in their terms, radical about such things. Well, it's because the system has changed to such an extent. The world you were brought up in or even settled your life in doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, we're prohibited from participating in it. There are areas of London, Brent is 56.1 foreign born, and that's not even second generation immigrants who aren't assimilated either.
Yeah, I suppose if you scroll down on this thread, John, I have Brent at the bottom, I believe.
Yeah.
Like Swindon is stronger than the UK on average, but Brent, oof, diversity being our strength is the
Reading,
strongest
yeah, I
place in
can
the country.
tell you Reading's a hellhole at the moment. That's where my missus lives.
I moved for a
1
good
in
reason.
2.
And
56.1, I was right.
The reason I've done the map like that as well is because the reality, of course, is that this is centered in areas. So even though I live in Swindon, in my particular constituency of my council area, I'm going to bet it's 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Frankly, that's my day-to-day life. Anyway, so let's go to the next one here. It's just, you wanted a quiet life.
Yeah.
Guess what we got thanks to the quiet life? You can't buy a home. 42% of all foreigners who are here under your watch. It didn't need to happen. You literally promised every single year you would stop that, and you didn't. And in which case, guess what? Your own youth movement, funnily enough, wants to be more radical on the issue.
No, I have nothing but contempt for you because you've ruined the prospects of the future.
Let's go back to the article. Baker worries about them. He is right, but has no idea what to do. Did stop being an NPC. Look at the problem. They're telling you what to do, and you're like, man, I just don't get it. Listen, for Christ's sake. Look at the data, and you will get it. The crowd are unimpressed with another Brexiteer, Daniel Hannan. The libertarian boilerplate of his speech, a Trussian paean to enterprise, culture, and tax cuts, is shredded in the Q&A. Quote, I come from a more tribal school of thought, says one of the boys. To him, identity matters more than economics. If everything is more globalist, then everything will move to London, and my community in East Bradford will become even more of a dump.
Fact check true.
Brilliant question. Brilliant point.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what if we have, the complete free markets, complete free movement of people, but in the UK instead of the EU? Isn't that better? No. London is hell. Nobody wants to live in London.
I wanted to make the point about Reading as well. It's a small point, but the fact that 1/3 of people there are foreign born, it's either these inaccessible foreign shops or the sort of universality. I like how you put the UN logo there to represent everyone. The universality of chain restaurants. Like, I've got my anniversary this Friday and I'm looking to book somewhere. There's nowhere quaint. There's nowhere new and appetizing. It's just like, oh, do you want Starbucks or a Pizza Hut or a KFC? Or it sucks the soul and novelty out of things. You don't feel like you belong anywhere if everywhere is unanimous.
Unironically, a problem I've had literally even in Swindon. There's a pie shop in Reading.
Right.
You should go to. It's called Sweeney Todd's. Fantastic. unbelievably English. Like the people there are all like 90, and the menu's good, the food's good, the atmosphere's good. But yeah, here I haven't actually found a place that serves English food and isn't microwaved. This has actually been a problem.
Yeah.
And that's like Hannon. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean I want it. And also, I actually want to live in England. It's part of the reason I tried to move out of Reading, but it didn't work. Hannon has no convincing counter-argument. He just looks depressed.
Yeah.
Cry more. Either learn.
That's how we feel.
Or like every successful revolutionary, Hannon is discovering that the people are not what he thought they would be, and he's unlocked them from their cage. It's like, no, that's all wrong, writer. What Hannon is discovering is that reality doesn't match his idealism. The idea that everything will be fine because everything will be cheap because of free markets. There are things that are more concrete than that. They're actually mattering as well, Hannon.
Not every human being is motivated by rational self-interest because we're not purely rational.
But it's not rational self-interest to want to live at Heathrow. This is not actually desirable for any person on the planet. Yeah. No, nobody wants that. You go to anyone and actually move into these areas. I mean, the funniest thing is there was a research done of the populist parties in Europe, right? And there was the argument was like, well, in the cities, they lose the votes because, of course, they're not popular where there's actual diversity. It's those racists in the country. Then there was some more detailed research done. It was the native ethnic groups in the individual countries. Those who were that and lived in the cities were the most radical individuals when it came to voting for populist parties on the left and the right. The people who actually live near the diversity, who are of the ethnic group in the country you're talking of, were unbelievably voting for the AFD in massive numbers, or UKIP here. It's just not actually reality if you delude yourself. Anyway, they ended off with these young Tories are stripping the American right for parts.
Oh, no. Piss off.
They believe that until the British right comes out fighting, it will keep losing. The culture, hardline positions on immigration, and identity must be found. They want right-wing policy. I don't know why you're shocked. Cultural enemies must be identified, then ridiculed.
Yes.
For them, politics is about fighting who hates who, not sharpening the hatreds into flints. And it's like, number one, like that's the left's modus operandi. Like they're fighting this fight. Like you've got the right and the left in a ring in the UK, and the left are just throwing punches. It's actually commendable. Just the fighting style, just endlessly just throwing punches in this guy's face. And the guy, the little conservative there, blood streaming down his face, is just pleading for a quiet life. Yeah, funnily enough, the supporters of the blue guy in the ring don't want him to keep pleading for a quiet life. Yeah. They want him to actually block and fight back instead of just sitting there and getting absolutely mulched. And until that happens, funnily enough, the youth will just get more and more radical and cry about it, I suppose, or get on board. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on the armistice of the First World War. If you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.